the Sith Lords after the era of the Battle of Endor are rather mysterious and vague. They're not covered very much on YouTube. And recently, we have worked to uncover various beings and entities who existed beyond the era of the Empire and beyond even Darth Caedus' resurrection during the events of Dark Empire. Recently, we did a video all about the Dark Jedi Master Juris Sabaoth, who is an exceptionally formidable Darksider, and who Luke claimed even perhaps rivaled Vader. Today, we are going to be continuing this trend by exploring another instrumental and pivotal figure in the trilogies and books after the Battle of Endor, that being the twin brother of Jaina Solo and firstborn son of Han and Leia Solo, Darth Caedus, formerly known as Jacen Solo, where in this video we will analyse his power, his combative ability, his history, to see just how much of a threat he really was to the wider galaxy. And in all actuality, how he may be more powerful than even Darth Caedus, and why Luke Skywalker claimed that he rivaled Vader. Darth Caedus, born as Jacen Solo, was a human male who became a Dark Lord of the Sith, turning against his family and friends, and betraying the former principles and leading the Galactic Alliance he once championed into a reign of terror as he attempted to bring order and stability to a fractured galaxy. And the son of Han and Leia Organa Solo, Caedus was once a leading Jedi Knight who proved crucial and detrimental in defeating the Yuzong Vong warriors in the Yuzong Vong War and protecting the galaxy during the Yuzong Vong War. It was Solo's desire to protect the galaxy and his increasing willingness to accept at any cost that caused his and facilitated his fall to the ways of the Sith, a trait that similarly corrupted his grandfather, the Chosen One Anakin Skywalker, into Darth Vader, who Caedus would eventually exceed in power within the Force. Born in 9 ABY, Jacen Solo spent much of his early years as the target of various kidnapping plots and schemes against his famous and instrumental parents Han and Leia. When he was 13, he and his twin sister Jaina began attending the Jedi Praxium on Yavin 4, where their uncle Luke Skywalker, now Grand Master of the Jedi Order, taught them the ways of the light side of the Force. There, he made several lifelong friends, among them the Happen Princess Tenel Kal-Jo, whom he became strongly attracted to. While training, he and his friends defeated numerous plots against the New Republic, and in 24 ABY, he and his younger brother Anakin Solo, a dramatic waste of a character, were apprenticed to Luke Skywalker personally, becoming one of the few Jedi in the history of the Order to ever achieve such a title. A philosopher who struggled with the idea of employing violence to fight violence, Solo entered a personal crisis within his mind with the outbreak of the Yuzong Vong War. He preferred to serve off the front lines, but he felt obliged to volunteer for the strike team assembled to eliminate the Voxan Queen on Mikia. There, Anakin Solo was killed, and Jacen Solo stepped up to lead the strike team, assassinating the Queen and ending the Voxan threat before he was captured by the Yuzong Vong. Solo spent nearly a year in captivity, during which he was tortured for weeks at a time in the ancient torture device known as the Embrace of Pain, which Darth Krayt would eventually replicate and use on Cade Skywalker. The Embrace of Pain made Caedus virtually immune to pain, and allowing him to emerge far stronger than before. He slipped to the dark side, struggling with his circumstances and with the teachings of his captor and mentor Vergir, the ancient Jedi acolyte and secret Sith apprentice of Darth Caedus. He slipped to the dark side before returning and embracing the idea of responding to the universe with unconditional, all-encompassing love. He eventually escaped the Yuzong Vong's custody with Vergir, a former Jedi of the Old Republic, and rejoined the war effort. In the final battle of the war, Solo stormed Supreme Overlord Shimra Jamane's citadel, the most formidable warrior of the Yuzong Vong, and defeated Onimi, who was merely controlling the Supreme Overlord, being one of the few Force sensitives in the entire Yuzong Vong species, while Solo himself experienced a moment of absolute unity and oneness with the Force. Afterwards, he spent 5 years visiting and learning from various Force-using sects. During this time with the Mindwalkers, he experienced a vision of a dark figure ruling the galaxy and became absolutely determined to fulfill its resentment. He wanted to prevent this at all costs. Little did Caedus know, he was playing right into the hands of Darth Krayt, who was the dark man that he saw upon the throne of balance, an incredibly tyrannical Sith Lord, who rivaled even the greats such as Palpatine and Valkorion. He returned to the new Jedi Order during the Dark Nest Crisis, and, armed with a more ruthless and bloodthirsty philosophy of accepting various sacrifices in the name of the greater good, conspired to eliminate the Killings to prevent another vision of a galactic war and protect his infant daughter Alana Solo, secretly conceived with Kenel Karjo. In 40 ABY, Solo agreed to become the apprentice of Sith acolyte and master Lin Maya, after probing the future and finding that if he did not do so, he would kill Luke Skywalker and the galaxy would be absolutely consumed by chaos. Afterwards, he embarked on a year-long descent into the dark side of the Force, slowly turning against the Jedi and growing distant from his family as he grew darker, more meticulous, malicious, and more extreme. After seizing control of the Galactic Alliance, killing Luke Skywalker's own wife Mara Jade Skywalker, torturing his former apprentice and the son of Luke and Mara, Ben Skywalker, and committing multiple unforgivable atrocities, taking Tahari Vila as his own apprentice, and ascending to absolute Sith mastery as Darth Caedus. He was finally killed in a climactic duel with his twin sister Jaina Solo, while she was being augmented by Luke Skywalker at the time. However, how powerful was this exceptionally formidable Sith Lord? Solo had a natural talent for fencing, and was considered to be one of the greatest duelists in the Praxium's history shortly after constructing his lightsaber. By the time he was a Sith Lord, he was a deadly duelist, able to engage multiple opponents simultaneously, and even battle against Jedi Battlemaster Kyle Katarn with ease, although he did acknowledge Kyle posed a great threat compared to the rest of the Jedi strike team sent to kill him. The Dark Lord was also a skilled and frequent user of force speed in combat, very akin to his predecessor Insidious, often using it in dangerous situations and combat, and although nowhere near the prodigious skill and talent of Darth Vader with the lightsaber, Caedus was an exceptionally formidable warrior. During his first duel with Jaina Solo, Caedus called on the Force to exchange lightning-fast blows with his sister. The Jedi judged but few, but Luke and Mara Jade to be on his level. Even the Chief's officer Irolia had spoken as such Skywalker. In the duel against his aunt Mara Jade, Solo fell into an ambush and was badly wounded. While he could still pull up a fight, it did little to no good against Jade's seemingly speed and agility that was limitless. She came extremely close to killing him, and would have, had Solo not projected a force illusion of her son. As Caedus, he proved able to hold his own extremely well against the Grandmaster during the duel on his flagship, the Anakin Solo, managing to inflict severe injuries on his uncle, although Luke did triumph, and actually ended up dealing more wounds to Caedus than Caedus did to Luke. His sister, Jaina Solo, fought with him on 2 occasions, but he was only able to match him when he was severely injured and with Skywalker's augmentation through battle meditation. And yet, even with a severed and cybernetic arm and a hole in the gut in both duels, Caedus would not go down easily. Nevertheless, Jaina was able to defeat a much weaker Caedus during the last days of the Second Galactic Civil War. Jacen Solo had great force potential, which his uncle was able to sense shortly after his birth. Once trained, he was considerably broadly gifted in the Force, skilled in numerous areas. By the time he was a fully fledged adult, and as a Sith Lord, he could exercise mental influence through the Force, compelling even powerful Force users to obey him against them actively resisting his will. He was able to dispel Force illusions, even those erected by the Dark Lady Lin Maya, who was an exceptionally powerful Sith Lord. However, he was not as powerful as his uncle in a direct contest of strength. Even as a fully trained Sith Lord, Caedus could be overwhelmed by Luke Skywalker's power, unable to break his other uncle's near impenetrable Force grip. He and Jaina were able to manifest their powers very early on, using telekinesis as 2-year-olds and developing as a fetus in the womb. He was able to retrieve items from higher shelves and make other mischief. By the time he was 5, he could use exceptionally tightly focused telekinesis to move air molecules rapidly, heating and cooling them and creating a glow, and to slow water molecules enough to cause them to freeze. Using his empathetic talents, Solo was able to form a bond with the slave seed Vergir and implanted within him, giving him access to Yuzong Vong life by means of a sense analogous to or part of the Force. With it, he could influence Yuzong Vong life much as he did through the other Force. He could not, however, access the Force and his Vongness at the same time. He also possessed a natural talent with those Force skills involved in the manipulation of the body. Solo was able to use the Force to dull pain. He was also talented in healing, able to skillfully put others into healing trances, among other healing powers. He could exercise precise control over his bodily functions, manipulating blood flow and organ performance in order to modify his physical condition and adapt to his environment or wounds. Tapas, the technique of keeping warm within a cold environment, was among these practices of bodily control. In addition to his special affinities, Solo had access to a broad slate of Jedi skills after training. By the time Solo was 5, He'd been trained by Luke Skywalker to erect a Force barrier and defend himself easily. Using the Force, he could jump great heights and also slow his fall, cushioning in it very similar to Darth Caedus. He could also use his Force to see for him, and he had the predictive ability to summon to Jedi, sensing danger before it occurred. And by 40 ABY, he was able to receive specific brief visions of future hazards, such as when he saw he would foresee his death with Luke Skywalker, and that he would kill Luke if he did not accept the tutelage of Dark Lady Luke Maya. During his battle of Onimi, Skywalker and Solo stormed through Simra Jameh and came to Onimi, where Solo displayed his greatest showing of Force power to date. He experienced a moment of oneness with the Force, in which he was united with power, and was briefly transfigured into a being of pure Force energy, achieving a deeper unity with the Force than any Jedi in history. Jedi historian Tinoni Solu-Sa described him as briefly transformed into the most powerful manifestation on the Force on record. He could counteract any of Onimi's actions and neutralize his poisons, finally destroying and melting Onimi through the power of the Force and his own toxins. To observers, Solo appeared to grow in size and age 5 years in the moment, bathed in an absolute perpetual glow of light. Among his other talents was his ability to project his voice and other sounds through the Force itself. Solo could use the Force to flash a camera, creating a brief burst of static in the recording that would prevent him from appearing in recordings. As both Jacen Solo and Darth Caedus, he had more than merely the light side at his command. During his fall to the dark side while wandering on Coruscant, Solo instinctively summoned a devastating blast of Force lightning, and performed a Force choke as well, when he turned to the dark side and became a fully fledged Sith Lord under Luke Maya. Solo commanded both these powers, and he applied them quite liberally. After becoming Darth Caedus, he had access to Sith battle meditation, giving him an ability to anticipate events and understand and manipulate the battlefield. When furious, Caedus began to manifest physical effects of the dark side, turning his irises yellow akin to that of the dark side wielders in the Sith from dark side degradation and decay. In addition, his time as a captive of the Yuzong Vong had taught him how to suppress his responses to pain through sheer willpower. Though he still felt the sensation, eventually he became capable of virtually ignoring physical pain, shrugging off wounds such as an amputated arm or a lightsaber blade directly through his abdomen and midsection. However, his Force abilities were not only his most impressive showings. During his 5-year Force journey, Solo learned a wide range of esoteric abilities and powers from many Force-using traditions and cults. Tadar Ro taught him the Anti ability to teleport objects as well as the power of flow walking, a technique that enabled him to experience the past and future by projecting himself forward or backward in time, but not in space. Anti-future sight and fighting sight allowed him to anticipate events in battle with unusual speed and precision, as well as deathly accuracy. On Solo's journeys, he acquired the Dathomiri ability to kindle a globe of light through a Force spell and ritual, to move and manipulate to provide illumination, with the Night Sister teaching him the blood trail technique, allowing him to imbue his own blood with the connection of himself that could flow through the Force, useful for tracking attackers who got theirs blood on them. At some point in his journey, he used the Force to shock an individual's spinal cord and paralyze them briefly, an ability extremely unique to him among the Jedi. From Theron listeners, Solo learned the technique to quiet his mind and focus on communication through the Force, hearing and understanding them more clearly. And I cannot stress this enough, Luke Skywalker actually conceded that Darth Caedus was more powerful than his own father, Lord Vader, in terms of the Force. Something we personally concur with. We actually agree that Caedus was most likely the overall superior to Vader, although I actually personally would concur that they are actually quite equals, or Vader is actually slightly above. Anyway, my friends, what did you think of this video and this breakdown on why Darth Caedus was far more powerful than you ever realised? What would you like to see more below? We are going to be uncovering more aspects of the After Endor scenarios, and we'd like you to keep an open mind. So my friends, search your feelings, tap the subscribe button, and I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away.